biggest mystery is what happened to my grandfather, who disappeared 70 years ago.
They must have blanked us out completely.
This is something they really need to know.
Who Do You Think You Are with Kim Cattrall. Wednesday at 9 on BBC One. See the series so far on BBC iPlayer.
Join me, Robert Peston, as I get the answers from the top players in business. Leading questions on the BBC News Channel.
Science's battle with pandemic disease is an ongoing power struggle, and since its advent, television has been there.
This is BBC One. Now, the BBC 10 o'clock news with Nicholas Owen.
More allegations that Britain may be colluding in torture. The government denies it. A committee of MPs says not enough is done to verify the activities of allies like the United States. 3 bombs strike the holiday island of Mallorca after a warning from Basque separatists. In the path of the typhoon, Taiwan and China are struck. 1 million people flee. After a terrorist threat, England's badminton team pull out of the World Championships in India.
This is a championship that we'd prepared very hard for and felt that we could deliver medals in, so we didn't take this decision lightly.
It all hinges on the final test after Australia humiliate England at Headingley. Good evening. The government has denied allegations in a report by a committee of MPs that Britain may have colluded in the abuse of terrorist suspects. The ministers responsible for Britain's intelligence services insisted they firmly opposed torture, but said it was impossible to guarantee how detainees were treated by foreign governments. They made their comments after the Foreign Affairs Select Committee said it had grave concerns that Britain had been complicit in ill treatment. Our political correspondent Joe Coburn has the story.
For years, ministers have been questioned about the extent of secret flights carrying terror suspects through British territory. Now an influential report has accused the government of not doing enough to get the full truth about rendition and has said it's worried about allegations that UK officials may have been complicit in torture. The committee of MPs wants government assurances.
I think the government has a responsibility to use information wherever it comes from, but it also needs to make absolutely clear that it is not acceptable for torture to be used.
Today, the Foreign Secretary David Miliband and the Home Secretary Alan Johnson have strongly denied allegations of British collusion in the abuse of terror suspects overseas. But writing in the Sunday Telegraph, both ministers acknowledge that difficult judgments have to be made. When detainees are held by our police or armed forces, we can be sure how they are treated. We cannot have that same level of reassurance when they're held by foreign governments. Yet intelligence from overseas is critical to our success in stopping terrorism. Today's article by the two ministers is an attempt to deal head-on with continued accusations of UK involvement in alleged human rights abuses and to try and close down an issue that is starting to gain some momentum.
The government does not condone the use of torture. We are resolutely opposed to it, and that remains the case.
This is the British Indian Ocean territory of Diego Garcia. Last year, the Americans admitted that secret CIA flights carrying terror suspects had passed through here in 2002, despite years of denials by UK ministers. They're now being urged to investigate exactly what went on. There's also concern about Britain's relationship with Pakistan's secretive intelligence agency, the ISI, following claims they've mistreated and tortured detainees. There's also been a string of allegations about UK intelligence officers, including claims by this man, British resident Binyam Mohammed, that MI5 was complicit in his torture when he was held at sites in Pakistan, Morocco and Afghanistan.
As a country that has been firmly against torture and firm signatory of the International Convention Against Torture, we have to know that what we're saying is being backed up by what we're doing, and we're not being hypocritical about it.
The Metropolitan Police are investigating the role of one MI5 officer in Mr Mohammed's case, but there are now growing calls for a full independent inquiry into the whole issue of alleged human rights abuses.
Jo Coburn reporting, and she's at the Foreign Office for us now. Jo, the government is clearly trying to close down this story. Do you think they'll succeed?
Well, there's no doubt that this is certainly a clear attempt by the two government ministers to try and draw a line under this issue. The problem for the government is that this report by the Foreign Affairs Committee is not an isolated one. Just last week, MPs on the Joint Committee on Human Rights said they were unable to establish whether there'd been any British involvement in any mistreatment of suspects. And today, both opposition parties have said they want more than just general assertions from the government that Britain is not complicit in torture. Now, in terms of calls for an independent inquiry into this issue, my understanding is that's unlikely to happen. But ministers are still being urged to pile the pressure on the new American administration for any further details they may have about rendition flights that might have passed through British territory. Nicholas.
Jo, thank you very much. A British soldier has been killed in an explosion in southern Afghanistan. The soldier, who was serving with the 2nd Battalion, the Mercian Regiment, died yesterday while on patrol in Helmand province. His family has been informed. 3 bombs have gone off on the Spanish holiday island of Mallorca. Telephone warnings were made in the name of the Basque separatist group ETA. No one was injured. ETA was blamed for a car bomb in Mallorca last month, which killed 2 civil guards. Our Europe correspondent Johnny Diamond reports.
3 small bombs in one of Europe's premier tourist destinations at the height of the holiday season. This time, no deaths, no injuries, just a reminder that the Basque separatist group ETA, which says it planted the bombs, may be down, but is not out. 2 restaurants and a town square in the Mallorcan capital were targeted with small bombs today. This time, warnings were given, people evacuated. At one restaurant, the police appear to have exploded the bomb before it could go off. We were looking out of the window, said this witness, and the police came, and then there was a low explosion, like a controlled explosion, with no smoke or any apparent damage.